We had a rather droll week in X-Men, so we're going to talk about the 10 Deaths of Wolverine #2 today. Some of you may be asking, but what about Secret X-Men #1? It's coming on tomorrow in Worst of the Week. Obviously here with me is my good friend, the X-Men historian, the Marvel aficionado himself. Doc, how you doing?
I am spectacular, brother. Welcome, everyone. Welcome back this week in X-Men.
So some people have noticed that you have a more sunny disposition and outlook on life, Doc. And they've counted up that they think that you're, getting a little tail. Is that what it is, or are you just happy now?
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's been a handful of marginally better comics. I think I'm less depressed at the overall amount of comics and the overall quality of comics, and I think I have just started laughing at it.
Man, you need to read more DC, and then you'll get depressed like me. But that's something else. We're going to talk about the 10 Deaths of Wolverine #2. Now, that first issue, I wouldn't say it was hot fire, but it was pretty damn good. This felt like a bit of a letdown. We got Ben Percy, Federico Vicentini once again, and it's not really story. It's a chase scene.
Yeah, it is. Look, I like this comic, but I think that the longer we get through this maxi series masquerading as two mini series, I think I've been able to figure out a formula for it, and there is a direct inverse correlation between the amount of Wolverine in this Wolverine comic series and how good it is. This one had marginally more Wolverine, and it was marginally worse. Every issue so far in Lives of Wolverine that have been predominantly Wolverine have been fucking terrible. So there is a direct inverse correlation between the amount of Wolverine we're getting in our Wolverine comics and how good they are.
There's like some weird stuff in here. Like, I guess Moira X, she's got her, is it a bionic arm?
Well, she has the techno-organic arm from Warlock.
Yeah, the techno-organic arm. And she decides she doesn't want to use it anymore because obviously they're going to use it to track her. And so she fills up a bathtub full of iodine and has an iron with her because she's going to cauterize the wound. I'm going, listen, I get it's comic books. Can we think of this thing a little bit through? Like, there's no way you can cut your arm off at the femur without passing out and bleeding out and dying. You're in a bathtub full of hot water. That's another way to make yourself bleed out. Like, why not tourniquet the damn thing? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. I mean, she should have tourniqueted it before she started.
Then you won't feel it.
Then she should have built herself a fucking guillotine, stuck her arm in it, let the, some serious weight and gravity come down, cut through it. That's how you do it. Yeah. And then cauterize the wound with an iron.
Yeah, the iron wasn't a bad idea, but there's no way you're going to iron that thing shut if you're passed out and bleeding out in the bathtub.
Exactly. You also don't need to take a bath in iodine in order to cut your arm off that is above the water, like the water and iodine line. That seems really stupid. But
plus it would dye you red. Like, you'd be pretty conspicuous if your whole body was red.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you're trying to become better at hiding, both in the, hey, I have a giant techno-organic arm that is visible, and I haven't figured out that I should just probably wear gloves by now. But in addition to that, you're also now, you've changed your appearance. Granted, you still think that a haircut and dye job is going to full facial recognition, but hey,
listen, she dyed her whole body. Let's give the character credit. She's red now.
Yeah. Yeah, and then so you decide that you're going to dive into some iodine. All right, but apparently you're only going up chest high. It was
a little silly. And then she uses it to draw in Mystique and then blow her up. So Mystique's dead. Although I thought she was the big bad. Apparently that was just an appetizer for Wolverine. Obviously that's after. And we get a little bit of information on Wolverine. It sounds like you were probably correct that whatever arrived on Krakoa and metastasized and I don't know, opened up with this Wolverine in it is older than the island itself. It was clearly sent back in time, and it looked like he was potentially contacting the Phalanx via Terminator screens.
He is the same Wolverine from the one where, in that, human mutant animal preserve thing. Once she got all the information from him about their attempt to contact the Phalanx, Wolverine killed her. We thought that reset time. No, that just resets her time. The actual timeline that she was living in continues even after her death.
And it kind of makes sense because we know that Omega Sentinel came back from a different future.
Yep.
And is living in our time. So it does feel like that's what's going on. There's the similarities to Terminator are uncanny.
Yeah.
That it turns out that Moira is like scoping out the building that she just blew up to kill Mystique so she could see who else shows up.
But at the same time, she gives absolutely no shock or surprise that a techno-organic, phalanx-infected Wolverine is the one that's chasing her. It doesn't make any sense. You'd think that she would at least be shocked because this is her first proof that the timeline she's lived in have continued beyond her death. She thought that they ended with her. Now there's 9 timelines out there where she failed. They continued, so she didn't actually save any of them. And you'd think that she would be surprised because she's essentially lived for like 300 years? 1,000?
It was 1,000.
Oh, yeah.
That one lifetime, she went out there a long ways with Wolverine.
With Wolverine, with getting his blood and everything. So she's lived at least 1,000, if not like 1,300 years at this point. You think that something that big, that kind of a revelation about the nature of her life would be surprising to her, but no, apparently not. She just takes it in fucking stride and keeps going.
This is substantially better than the X Lives of Wolverine. I'll give it that.
Look, I think since the beginning we've said that Ben Percy basically took John Hickman's notes from his Moira X series, is adapting them to make it into a Wolverine miniseries. Deaths of Wolverine is essentially the Moira series we were supposed to get. The Lives of Wolverine is whatever shitty Ben Percy story that he wanted. That he wanted to somehow tie together to it. It doesn't tie in worth a damn. But so we're actually getting Ben Percy using John Hickman's notes and writing the Moira X story that John didn't write for us before he left that office, probably in utter disgust at what.
Now there was one more thing or piece of information that was gleaned in here, revealed about Moira, is that her cancer isn't like real cancer; it's floronic cancer, apparently from the No Place. I imagine another storyline or plot point that was lifted from Jonathan Hickman to be bastardized and destroyed by Ben Percy.
You're more than likely right. Honestly, I don't give a shit about her. About her pseudo cancer. I just can't bring myself to care. I also really can't bring myself to care about the every issue Jane Foster cameos. I don't care about this stuff. I don't care about Floronics and plant shit anymore. And I really don't give a shit about Jane Foster. So you're not really selling me on anything here. Now, the coolest parts of this are I want to see more of what kind of techno-organic Wolverine this is. If he's just
he can plug himself into a damn computer, that's for certain.
Yeah, exactly. I think we need to see more of, like the suit looks cool. I will grant you that. It's just, a techno-organic version of his, it's his silhouette of his costume and with the lines going in the same places, but they're phalanx-ish. I feel like if he's infected, we really should see it a little bit more on his skin. Look, the techno-organics, the phalanx stuff, that's the stuff I actually gave a damn about. So that is cool to me. That is remotely intriguing about this book. And I'm good with it. This is still probably a 3.5-star comic. It is significantly better than Lives of Wolverine. If this is what I'm getting from his death, just kill him every issue.
I don't know, man. You're a little bit more bullish on this one. I'll give it maybe like a 3. It's right on the fence. It's a very marginal recommend. I mean, if you don't want to read a terrible X-Men comic, read this one because it's not terrible, but it's not the right home about it. It's a continuing amount of disappointment, especially with X-Men events. We think about House of X, Power of 10, started in September of 2019, would have ended right at the end of September 19. We're not that far off, a little bit over 2 years when that happened. We've had Ten of Swords happen a year later, September 2020. A couple of good moments. I like what they do with Gorgon. There's a couple of things in there that are interesting, but for the most part disappointing. Like they're doing here, you cram 2 stories together that didn't belong together, and you got a dysfunctional, incoherent event. Hellfire Gala only happened in June 2021. 10 Lives and Deaths of Wolverine, January 2022. And we've got Judgment Day right around the corner. That's a lot of fucking events in the X-Men universe. The law of averages said they should have hit something out of the park besides House of X-Men Powers of 10. But, we're on the third event here, and none of them have really clicked, at least as a whole.
Well, you are correct. I mean, look, but part of that reason is the law of averages, the law of inevitability, says that something should have clicked by now. But A, we do have a still relatively small sample size. And B, it assumes relative consistency in quality of creators involved. Jonathan Hickman, I don't even think he's all that great, and he is infinitely more talented than literally anyone else, except for maybe Al Ewing. That's in.
Well, he hasn't done that event. We had the Tini Howard event with the Ten of Swords. We had the Jerry Duggan Hellfire Gala, and now we've got the Ben Percy 10 Lives Des.
And all of them are infinitely inferior to even someone that I consider marginally above average in Jonathan Hickman.
Maybe Kieran Gillen's just what the doctor ordered in Judgment Day to turn this around and maybe delivers something.
I sure didn't order it. I am the doctor, and I say no. This is a bad treatment for this illness in this office. My prescription is fire them all. But look, I do think that look, Kieran Gillen is probably more talented than everyone else remaining in that office, except for maybe Al Ewing. I still think Al Ewing is a talented writer, if he could get his head out of his own ass sometimes. Kieran Gillen is, I still consider him a clown, that occasionally can write something that's not utterly incomprehensible and pandering gibberish. But regardless, you do have 2 people that are better than the rest of that office.
But Doc, we got to be honest here. You are a Marvel X-Men centric reader. A lot of Kieran Gillen's most, his best works have been on the peripheries of that. It hasn't exactly been X-Men. If it's been Marvel, it's been like a Darth Vader series. A lot of his most acclaimed works have happened on the indie seeds and things that you wouldn't have read.
I completely and utterly agree. And my proof of him being fucking terrible when it comes to doing X-Men is the fact that he already wrote X-Men for 20 issues.
It's hard to argue with that one, Doc. You got me by the balls there.
Yeah. And, look, so why would I have faith in it when he fucking wrecked X-Men the last time he was there?
Unless he's going to bring in Vader, which he writes a damn good Vader.
I mean, unless he decides he's just going to write some fucking, what did he do? Die or something like that?
Yeah, Die was cool. With Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, I mean, unless he wants to just write a Dungeons and Dragons comic, I mean, he could pick a bunch of Z-list mutants and have them just playing a game of Dungeons and Dragons in the fucking
Excalibur
forest.
Would have been much better with Kieran Gillen.
Oh, infinitely better. You don't have a lot of talent in that office, and as a result, I don't think
the real problem is the leadership. You have an utter buffoon, card-carrying member, likely voted in president of the Legion of Doofus, is leading the office. So you have the blind essentially leading the blind. So there's almost no chance of recovery or getting better.
No, there's no chance. I mean, inevitably somebody will accidentally write something good. I mean, it's fucking infinite monkeys, infinite typewriters. One of them will eventually.
Or Zeb Wells will get a chance. You're like, okay, here's something good.
Yeah, exactly.
Move on to a better opportunity. When he realizes he's working for the food.
Correct. When you get an actual superhero comics writer in that office, they inevitably leave or they stay on the very far periphery. They don't want to get like central to that office. Kieran Gillen, not a kind of strict superhero comics writer. Jerry Duggan, well, I don't even think he's a writer.
Man, this Savage Avengers stuff is good. He writes a good Conan, man.
Okay, fine. Keep him in fucking Hyberia or whatever the shit it's called. Hyperborea or whatever the fuck his land that Conan's called.
Well, the land is Samaria. The age is the Hyborian age.
Yeah, fine. Keep him the fuck over there. Al Ewing wants to stay kind of on the periphery. Ben Percy wants to be in the center of it, but he's proved that any little bit of faith that we had in him going on early was sorely unwarranted.
Misplaced.
Yeah. Then you got Tinny and Leia and Vita. You know,
Steve Orlando. Maybe he's the hope.
No. Look, no, none of these people are quality writers. So you can't really apply the law of inevitability or even the law of averages to it. Because
all right, Doc, we got to wrap this bad boy up. It's better than the last issue.
It is.
There's probably no hope.
Well, it's not as good as the last issue of this story, but it's better
no.
than the last issue in this overall maxi series masquerading as miniseries.
If you have to read an X-Men book this week that's new, read this one because the other ones were really bad.
Yes.
If you didn't get to hear Doc and I talk about the 10 Lives of Wolverine #2, you got to check it out. This thing, it's worse than you could possibly imagine. You have to see it to believe it. It's right here.